Inside this room, all of my dreams become realities, and some of my realities become dreams.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You are listening to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. Here are your hosts, Alan Sanders and Walt Murray.
Hey, welcome back, everyone, to The Wilder Ride, our listeners' lounge, our chance to be able to sit back, relax, chat about what's going on around us, and to bring in some really, really cool guests. We actually are going to bring in a twofer this week. We're going to have a couple of guys from the Rocky Minute, a couple of folks who actually have a background in law enforcement as well. But before we get to them, as always, we got to introduce ourselves. I'm your host, Alan Sanders, and coming to the stage as well, my partner in crime, Walt Murray. Walt, welcome.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
You know what? It's going pretty well. I mean, considering everything going on in the world right now, I don't even know where to start. It's like every night I feel like we've got one side, and I won't say a name, but we got one guy who's never happy with anything. The death tolls are up. That's bad. Death tolls are down. That's bad. So the coronavirus numbers are going up. That's bad. They're going down. Well, that's bad too. So I don't know what the fuck to think.
Yeah, I'm to the point where I'm not paying attention to it, and I'm just trying to survive walking around without a mask on and apparently offending everybody for doing that.
Yeah. Oh, heaven forbid we show all the data. I actually had a doctor join me on, I'm filling in for Eric Erickson this entire week on his radio show. And I brought in a medical doctor who said that just prior to COVID-19, the CDC did this massive study looking at the top 10 most peer-reviewed studies of whether or not masks are effective in the use of preventing the influenza virus, which is very similar to COVID. And their findings of assessing 10 individual studies was there's no difference between wearing one and not wearing one. It has everything to do with hygiene and whether or not you have a strong immune system. So that means the CDC has now said we must all wear masks.
Well, the thing I love about it is I was talking to somebody at the hardware store on Saturday, and this guy's mask was filthy. And I said, well, you're supposed to put on a new mask like every hour, according to what's on the box. And he was like, oh, I've been using this one for 3.5 weeks.
See, that's the problem. Every study I ever read leading even up to this was like the problem for the layman, the person who's just walking around, they're constantly touching it, fiddling with it, pulling it down because people can't hear what they're saying. They're not cleaning it. They're not changing it out when they're supposed to. And it doesn't matter. Everything I just said, it doesn't matter because the popular idea is it's got to be something worthwhile because Dr. Fauci said so. Although you pull an interview from Dr. Fauci at the very end of February, and when he was asked by 60 Minutes, does it make sense? He's like, nah, masks, if you want to wear one, that's great. But you know what? Doesn't really do anything. What the fuck happened to that message?
Well, I think it's like everything else. Nobody really knows. But I do like the fact that now everybody online is a virologist.
Epidemiologist, specialists,
sociologist, everything that, anything that comes up. I mean, it's always bad around college football time, right? Because every single person, if you're a Mississippi State fan, here are the 14 reasons Mississippi State's going to win the national championship. So you've got all these experts, but now this year, man, everybody is an expert on everything. I'm just starting to tune it out. I really am. I'm trying to I've got enough on my plate without all this craziness. So,
well, okay, let's pull it back because I know we've got a very wide audience, so we want to be. It's the most frustrating thing I'm dealing with this week. Honestly, of all the things, that's the most frustrating because I've been able to be, covering for a guy who's who's syndicated across the state of Georgia, which is kind of cool. We've been just trying to go day by day, just kind of, ticking the boxes on the calendar, hoping that we can, see college football. And we've got our own governor saying, well, depends. I'm like, no. Don't tell me it depends.
Well, the Ivy League canceled today. They canceled their 2020 season. So we don't get to see that big Yale-Harvard matchup that we all anticipate all year long.
Yeah, but you know what? We live in that culture right now where all it takes is one domino to fall and the other ones start to follow.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. So,
all right. Well, let's try to pick it up some. I mean, you've had some great stories about what's been going on and stuff. What's been going on since the last week, since we had our chance to meet together and hang out?
Okay, so we've told our audience before that we record and then the show comes out 2 weeks later.
Right.
So the show that came out this week was the one where I told the Jamaica toothbrush story.
Welcome to Jamaica.
I have had a flood of people sending me texts or, buddies calling me, hey, man, I got this great story. I've heard the most disgusting places that toothbrushes have ended up. And just all these vacation stories, and it has just been crazy. One of the guys was telling me that he went to this hotel and they were doing some remodeling and stuff. And he and his wife go out to the beach and, of course, leave basically everything in the room. And they come back. All their stuff is gone. The beds are gone. The carpet is stripped out of the room. The water's shut off. And they're like, what's going on here? And the guys are like, oh, yeah, we're remodeling this room. And they're like, well, where's all our stuff? And they said, well, we thought that was junk, so we threw it in the dumpster.
No, really?
So for part of their vacation, they had to dumpster dive and get all their stuff out of the garbage.
You've got to be kidding me. So the hotel didn't even pay attention. They rented a room out to someone just before they had scheduled a renovation.
Yeah, the day that they had scheduled the renovation for that hall, and it was like 4 or 5 rooms that they did that with.
Wow.
So,
well, see, so that goes to prove my point. No matter where you are, there's always someone that's got a worse story.
Yeah, that would be pretty bad. That would be horrible. I mean,
that would be bad. You're on vacation and someone comes in, ransacks your room, and throws your shit away.
Well, and not only that, but like all your crap is in a hotel dumpster. At that point, no, it's gone. I'm not going in there.
No, I'm going downstairs and say, you're giving me a credit to the store or you're getting me a voucher to the closest mall, and I'm going on a shopping spree.
The manager can give me his Amex because I'm not fishing my junk out of the dumpster.
Hey, wait, what's your junk doing in the dumpster?
Well,
What were you doing, Walt?
I got friends in low places.
Yeah, well, we've met a couple, so.
Yes, you have. So.
Oh, goodness. Well, this week has been great in the sense that I've had a chance to do a lot of radio. For those folks who are longtime listeners, I've got a side job in radio. I do like kind of a morning news show with a Saturday talk show, but I also fill in at WSB in Atlanta, which is the #1 station. It's a talk station, but it's a news talk, and everybody, I mean, it's huge. It's the most listened to station, and it's always a privilege to be down there. But one of the hosts down there has his own show that he does, and it's been it's something that he's grown from scratch to affiliates all across the state of Georgia. He's starting to get reach into Florida because we were getting calls from Florida, calls from Alabama. So he's getting these stations that are technically in Georgia, but they're right on the border. And it's been really cool to suddenly have sort of that audience from around the Southeast. So no matter what's been going on, the nice thing is I've been having a blast this week, just being able to talk about things and really try to facilitate a conversation. Because the thing I find myself saying over and over and over, you're not going to solve any problem on social media. Stop trying to argue on Twitter. Stop trying to argue on Facebook. It's not going to get solved there. We're going to have face-to-face, actual live conversations. You're starting to sense that people are realizing that. They're just not going to they're not going to share on social media as much anymore. They're going to have to sit down and just have a conversation.
But there are certain people who just do not learn. And I was telling my kids this week, my old saying of you don't get involved in a land war in Southeast Asia and you don't get in an argument on the internet. And there are some people that just cannot learn that lesson. And one of them is named Walt Murray. And
the other one's
had to delete a couple things this week.
Here's the thing, though. In my profession, I have to engage. We are obligated as, quote, voices in media to have a Twitter account, to have a Facebook account, to have an Instagram account. And, thank God they're talking about getting rid of TikTok, because we've got this word coming down. Hey, all the kids are using TikTok. If we want to groom a new generation of listeners, I'm like, fuck you. I'm not using TikTok.
I have been looking forward to seeing those 60-year-old burned out DJs get on TikTok and try to dance. That has ratings written all over it.
Well, you know what? We've got a couple of folks that have been sitting in the green room, and before I get to them, is there anything else you want to talk about from this past week?
No, I'm going to talk for just a second at the end about one of our listeners and something that came up with him this week. But
okay.
No, other than that, no. I mean, everything is just 2020ing right along.
Keep on trucking.
Yes. Oh, I did get my new "Keep on Trucking" shirt in today, so I'll be happy to sport that next week.
All right. Well, let's welcome two gentlemen to our stage. We've got a couple of guys who are, as I said at the beginning, they're police officers by day, they're podcasters by night. They're huge Rocky fans. I believe they're also Sylvester Stallone fans, but definitely Rocky fans. They've got a great podcast called The Rocky Minute, where they break down the film and the franchise, the Rocky movies, 1 minute of the movie at a time. But we wanted to bring them on because, you know what? They're one of the first people we brought in to our podcast in season 1. They invited us to be part of their season, and we have had a blast getting to know these guys. And we thought we needed to bring them on and give them a little bit of love. Let's first welcome to the stage Doug Greenberg. Welcome, Doug. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. And I don't know if you this is the genius that Jay is. Now, when you said green room, Alan, did you see Jay looking around his room as if he was saying to himself, "My room's not green"?
Wait, am I in the right room?
Well, because we're going to get into color theory in just a little bit, because we know how much Jason loves that from season 2 of the Rocky Minute. But let's go ahead and say Jason Hanes also. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. Also the partner with Doug on the Rocky Minute.
Hello. Thanks for having me. It's nice to hear you guys. Haven't heard you in a while.
Haven't? Yeah, we haven't hung out in a little bit, and that's
been a while, right?
I will take that as my fault. I usually try to coordinate these kind of conversations and things. It's just, I guess 2020 has been just a weird year, huh?
Think.
In short, yes, it has.
All right. Well, before we get to you guys as friends and podcasters and how you decided to start the Rocky Minute, Doug, I'll start with you. Talk about your career, because right now, for me and Walt, and I have no problem saying this, and if our listeners don't like it, well, then too bad. I am a fan of law enforcement. I have friends in the law enforcement community. I am really good friends with the sheriff of Bartow County, which is the county I live in. I have many officers that I have, whether they're public information officers or people that walk the streets, that I have their numbers. If something's going on, me being in news, I want to be able to have that kind of good relationship that said, hey, I've got somebody that said that they heard about a car accident or about a shooting or about a kidnapping, and you want to have that communication. And thankfully, I live in a community that values police officers. Doug, what made you first and foremost want to be a police officer?
That was I don't know, like a childhood kind of goal of mine. Like I always looked up to the police. One of my father's close friends was a policeman, so I was kind of like wowed by the whole thing. And I was never the type to, sit behind a computer in an office somewhere. So I don't know. It was like tailor-made for kind of a tailor-made career for me.
And before I didn't mention where, because I don't know if you're allowed to. I don't know what the rules are when you're in sort of this kind of mode of being interviewed, but are you allowed to say where you serve?
I don't see why not. Okay.
So where are you an officer?
A small town in New Jersey called Carteret.
All right. So you're serving in Jersey. And let's ask Jason the same thing, because I want to kind of bounce back and forth, and then Walt and I will continue to bounce back and forth asking questions of you guys. But Jason, same kind of question to you. Where, first of all, where do you serve, and what kind of drew you to law enforcement?
I work in the same place as Doug, in New Jersey, Carteret, New Jersey. I don't know. I had no police in the family. I had no friends that were cop. I had no connection to it whatsoever. It was just something that I just wanted to do from when I was little. Same type of story. And I regret it every minute since then. It oddly enough is like my parents tried to talk me out of it when I was a kid, and all of the things they said, like my father used to say to me, like, you got to work weekends and holidays and nights and shift work. And I was always like, I don't care about that. Who cares? I want to serve and protect and blah, blah, blah. And now, like, those are things I complain about all the time. I got to work weekends and holidays and shit. Like, so I don't know where it came from. And like I said, my parents tried to talk me out of it with no avail. And here I am.
How many years have you both been on the force?
I'm going to start my 19th next week, actually.
Wow, you're getting close to that, maybe that tick in retirement.
Yeah, well, we're 25 years in New Jersey. I know some, like New York, they're 20 and out, so we got to stay till 25. But yeah, I'm working on an exit plan. I got to start working on it now because I'm not staying a day longer than I have to.
I don't blame you with the climate we're in right now. Jason, what about you? How long have you been serving?
This is I'm in the middle of my 15th year. But I also did I worked for U.S. Customs for 4 years prior to this, so it's my 15th year here, but it's my 19th, not the same, in law enforcement in general, and as a whole. That's where I went to FLETC there, Walt. I spent some time in
that's right,
in Georgia there.
Yeah, the sand gnat capital of the world, down in Brunswick, Georgia. My original hometown.
Did you ever go to the club Level 3? You ever heard of that club?
I've heard of it. I've never been there.
Does Walt look like the club going type, Jay?
Do I look like the club going type? I went. Level 3 was the popular club in Brunswick, Georgia. That's where everyone from FLETC goes, as well as the locals. And a lot of times at the end of the night, it's not a good mix.
I was going to say, I think it's closed now.
I could imagine, whatever. But fast forward, like a couple of years ago, I was working up here in Carteret, New Jersey, which is a long way from Brunswick, Georgia, and we arrested a guy. And I didn't arrest him; somebody else arrested him. I went and I was looking at his sheet, and it said place of birth, Brunswick, Georgia. And I said to him, I was like, "Oh, you're from Brunswick, Georgia?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, and this guy was being like, a little bit of an animal. Can I say that?
Yeah, you're allowed to say that.
But he was like angry. He was like yelling. So I looked at his sheet. I was like, "You're from Brunswick?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "You ever been to Level 3?" His whole he just stopped cold. He looked at me. He like tilted his head. He was like, "The fuck you know about Level 3?"
He was worried about saying animal, but didn't think twice about saying.
Throw that one out there.
Well, that was a quote. That was a direct.
That
quote,
was a quote. Yeah, it wasn't him. He was quoting the victim.
But I was like, man, so we had a long talk about Level 3, me and him.
I know that FLETC is, for the listeners, it's the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, and they train everybody from all the federal agencies except for the FBI, Secret Service, and DEA.
The FBI does not go there. The DEA does not. But the Secret Service, they have a 10-week program there before they go to their other programs. So they are there for a period of time. Well, this is back in, I went there in 2001, so it's a long time.
Okay. Actually, I was slated to go through in 2002.
Oh, I was just going to correct myself. I went in 2002. We would have been there together. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
was that before or after seminary, Walt?
That was after. I had several.
When you realized you were not cut out for Jesus talk.
Yeah, well, that was not hard to figure out. That was fish in a barrel.
Well, okay, you guys both started really right around the start of the new century, the new millennium, early 2000s. A completely different time than where we are now. Without getting too deep, and I don't want to get too necessarily heavy. We already kind of did that at the very beginning of the show. But Doug, I'll go to you first. What's been maybe one of the biggest changes you've seen in terms of the appearance of or the community's feel for what law enforcement represents today versus when you started?
Oh, man. I started in 2002. Which was not long after 9/11, when there was a lot of love for the police back then. And there's been a couple of waves, believe it or not. We've had some highs and lows where, when we bottom out, it's like, Ferguson, Missouri happens, and then everybody hates the cops. And then, something like COVID happens, and, everybody loves the cops again. And then all of a sudden everybody hates us again. So, I mean, it definitely goes in waves, but I think the biggest change from when I started to now is the cell phones everywhere. Everybody's got the cell phones out. Everybody's trying to get the cops put on either YouTube or World Star or something. So cell phones.
Everybody wants that viral video.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Jason, what about you?
So Doug had mentioned how, you go through these waves where people love the police and people hate the police and love the police and up and down. And COVID was one of those times where people love the police, and it was also the shortest lived love of the police in history. that love came and went so fast.
That one afternoon,
like just for like a day and a half.
Well, I will say this. I grew up in a law enforcement family, obviously, and I've said that before. I think most people respect the police, appreciate the job y'all do, and it's a loud minority of people in the media and in our culture who make a bunch of racket who don't like the police. I think most people are glad you're there, appreciate the job you do, and are glad that you make it home at the end of the day. And I think that it's just there's stuff going on in our culture that is just loud. You have people who get on their high horses on social media and stuff, but I think for the most part, most people appreciate the job y'all do.
I want to believe that. And I think what you're saying is right. I think what we're seeing is the same loud voices on Twitter and Facebook are the same ones that are getting the attention in the mainstream media, but that does not reflect the majority of the country. It is a very small group of people. Unfortunately, because they get all the attention, they get the headlines, we hear it nonstop, it feels like it's a bigger problem.
Mm-hmm. I think for the most part that's true, unless they're blowing smoke on my ass. Like I for the most part, like even people that don't agree with the perceived police brutality that's out there, they don't cast a blanket over all police for the most part. But
yeah,
well,
and two, coming again from a law enforcement family, I know what it's like when a news break comes on and there's been a police shooting or something like that happens. Mm-hmm. And you just, as a family member, you kind of stop. I mean, like your world stops until you can digest, okay, that's not dad. That's not my family member. And the added stress, the kind of crap that people are pulling, beating on the police like that, both for the officers trying to do the job and for their families, to me is almost unforgivable. Mm-hmm. And I really hope that those people will take a long, hard look in the mirror. And yeah, there are some things that probably need to be changed. They're, or cleaned up or whatever. That's true in every job all the time. But y'all are just kind of in that weird spotlight job where people feel like they can take a pound of flesh. And it's really not fair to the officers who are working the streets every day.
To tie it into what Alan's question originally was about the change, like one of the biggest changes I've seen is the expectations of police have changed a lot. They keep putting more things on your plate. So, back in the day when we were kids, cops just, patrolled, protect and serve. That was to be a social worker. You have to be a doctor. You have to be a lawyer. You have to be, everything that everybody needs you to be. And you have to do it perfectly. Everything's got to be perfect. You're 100% accountable for everything you do. And, the bottom line is that no one's perfect. Have days and weeks and months and even years at times to look at everything you did, pick it apart piece by piece, analyze every decision you made. And they get to do it without, there's no human element in it because they get to take that out completely and just analyze the facts that are on a page. And you have to remember that that's a human being making a split-second decision in one of the most stressful situations you could possibly be in. And to sit back in your office for the next year and look at that and decide whether or not they made the right decision or not is not fair to us. And also, like I said, they keep piling all this stuff on you. They want you to be the perfect shooter, pinpoint accuracy at all times. They want you to be able to be the best fighter. Like you could disarm anybody with just a flick of your wrists. Like, but they want you to do all this, but they're not giving us the training to do all this because it costs money. It takes time. And they don't want to pay for it. So like the big mantra now is defund the police. It shouldn't be defund the police. It's like you want better trained, better educated, more efficient police, and then you want to take all the money away from them that they need to become the most efficient, well-trained, most educated police that you need. So you can't take all the money away and expect us to be everything to everybody and be it perfectly. It's not fair. Yeah. So we're set up for failure by everybody, by politicians, by our chief, by our everybody sets us up for failure. We go out there and now you have what's happening in Atlanta. This guy's on trial for murder.
Hello, yeah, Chief? Yeah, Jay said you're set up for failure. You're setting us up for failure. Okay.
Oh,
I'll let him know. Hey, Jay, the Chief wants to talk to you tomorrow.
you got an 8 a.m. meeting.
It was a good career.
You almost made it.
Oh, well, what are you going to do?
Well, no, you know what, though? What you're saying is absolutely correct. And here's the thing. I know you say you mentioned politicians, but it's not all the politicians because I had a chance earlier this week. I interviewed Senator Rand Paul. He doesn't understand why there's resistance to what they were trying to do with the crime bill. He doesn't understand at all. He's like, you've got a perfect microcosm of what happened in Seattle. When you let the hooligans on the street think that they have power and authority and control, and you say that's a patriotic display, and it's great until all of a sudden people are dying, people are being beat over the head, you see absolute anarchy, and then they go, well, where's the police? Like, wait a minute, you just got done saying you don't need the police. It's self-defeating to turn around and say the way to solve the problem is to reduce the funding, which means you don't have as much money for salaries, you don't have as much money for training, you don't have as much money for expanding programs or to try to bring in new innovative approaches. It's counterintuitive to where in any other area of business or the real world, you would never say the way to fix a problem is to defund it.
I don't know. I've worked at a couple of big corporations that pulled crap like that a couple times. So you get to do more with less. I think some of those people that you're running our cities.
That always works really well.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
All right. Well, let's because again, I know that's kind of a. You know what though? I don't mind. I don't care if people don't want to listen to this episode, they can skip to the next one. Because you know what? I love our police forces. I mean, I served in the military as in the Navy. So I love our military, but our first responders, I mean, I get a chance to interview EMS, fire. I get to interview police officers, detectives, folks all along those front lines who are being asked to make split-second decisions. It reminds me of the movie Sully. I don't know if you ever saw that about with Tom Hanks about the guy laying down in the Hudson River, which is great because he makes that point that says, wait a minute, you're saying that there would have been enough time, but in a perfectly controlled situation where you've got all the time in the world to kind of look at everything. That's not the real world. And we've got to stop doing that. We've got to stop holding police to some idea that they had 350 minutes to sit back, relax, analyze, and decide what was my best course of action. You're talking about split-second decisions. If we want to pull away from the emotion or whatever of police, go watch that movie because Tom Hanks does a great job of selling the idea. It's one thing to sit back after and play Monday morning quarterback. It's a completely different thing when you're live in the moment and trying to decide what is the immediate course of action that I think is the best one to save as many lives as possible.
So there's an activist, I believe it was, I'm 99% sure it was Arizona, where he was like a big anti-police activist. And the police, and I believe they invited him to go through a simulated, shooting scenario situation where he had 3 scenarios and he had to make the right decisions or whatever. And he failed all 3 of them. He got killed in one of them. He killed an unarmed man in one of them. And I believe he killed 2 people and got killed in one.
I remember this.
And when it was over, he said like, man, I had no idea it was like that. He goes, this is unbelievable. He like changed his entire thought process based on going through that training because he made the wrong decision all 3 times.
You know, I think more of that. I think I've seen some videos like that where they say, okay, the suspect is at the back of his van and you're trying to tell him to come out from behind the van. He goes, well, hold on one second. I've got something right here. Yeah. And it's like, well, and then he comes out from behind the van and either he has a gun or he doesn't. But then I've seen multiple times where I guess it's a 50-50 where in the training, half the time they do bring a gun out. Half the time it's like a rag or a tire iron or something. It doesn't matter. Almost all the time people fail because they freak out because they're not trained to handle that kind of split-second decision making.
And I got to go through that scenario one time at one of the police departments here. And the scenario that I ended up with was there's a lady standing talking to a coworker, and she's been accused of bringing drugs to work. So I go up to talk to her. Before I get word one out, she round kicks me in the face. And after that, they were like, yeah, she was a black belt in karate. I was like, well, how did I know that? Well, you don't.
You don't, right?
You know, you walk into that, you don't know what's going on. And so it is a very intense, driven thing to go through, and you really do gain an appreciation for what's going on out there.
You know, I don't know if you guys do this in Jersey or in different municipalities, but I know here in Bartow County, and I'm saying this for the listeners, depending where you're listening, our local law enforcement here, our sheriff of Bartow County, specifically has a couple of things they do because they realize people grow up watching movies and thinking that's how crime works, that's police work, that's not reality. And so they do a citizens academy, usually once or twice a year. They do citizen range days. Doesn't cost anything, but they want you to understand what it is to be a police officer, what it's like. And they take you through these almost like a mini version of Police Academy. And it's been such a great thing because it's opened up so many eyes of people. It's not what you see in a 60-minute TV show. That's great for drama. That's great for Hollywood, but that's not real life. You don't solve the crime before the end of the second commercial break. That's not how it works.
You know what? I'll get to it when you do the what are you watching now, because mine kind of connects to that thought process.
Okay.
So I'll save it.
Before we move on to your Rocky passion, I do have one last police question. And with y'all being from New Jersey specifically, I think it applies to y'all. Where's Jimmy Hoffa?
What?
I mean, he's
fed to the Sharks.
Jersey guy, right?
Yeah. There's a rumor that he was buried underneath the end zone in Giant Stadium.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. In the Meadowlands over there. He's chopped up and scattered around somewhere.
Just real quick, the video, if everyone wants to watch, you put in Phoenix Police. Police activist goes through Phoenix police training, and you can get the video and watch what I was talking about.
Yeah, folks, I'm telling you, if you haven't seen that video, I saw the live news story. It was on one of the network television shows, and then it's been since on YouTube. Check it out. It is really eye-opening. Before you start questioning everything, maybe you should do a little bit of educating before you start jumping on that bandwagon. Let's do like Walt said. Now that we kind of introduced our guests and talked about what it is to be an officer and a cop, and especially seeing how it's evolved over the last 15, 20 years. In the meantime, you guys both have a passion for Rocky. You guys have a podcast based on it, and it may be just a love of Sylvester Stallone and then specifically Rocky. So, Doug, I'll start with you. Which is it? Is it a love of Sylvester Stallone and Rocky, or is it a love of Rocky and then Sylvester Stallone kind of comes second?
Rocky first, Stallone is secondary. I don't know, man. I've been watching them. Me and Jay used to work the same shift, and we used to talk about Rocky all the time at work. I mean, not all the time, but frequently at work, and just like the themes behind it, and the never quit attitude and all that other stuff. But I mean, as a kid, I wasn't picking up on the themes as much as just enjoying watching Rocky. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really get an appreciation to what the message of Rocky was until I got quite a bit older. But I don't know, man. My intro to Rocky was Rocky 3. I was the first one that I saw in the movies, and I was 7 years old in 1985 when Rocky 4 came out, and that was just perfect age for that kind of just boombastic kind of Rocky movie that we got in Rocky 4. So
Jason, what about you?
Lifelong.
I know you said that because Doug said you guys both kind of like end up being on the same shift and talking about it, but where did your love of Rocky start?
Well, first of all, to answer your other question, I like the movie Rocky. I'm not a huge Sylvester Stallone fan. Other than Rocky and Rambo, I'm really not a big Over the Top is okay. I'm not a big fan of all this other stuff.
Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. I mean, there's so many awesome ones out there.
What's not to like?
There's not.
Rhinestone.
Yeah, as I slug through each of his films, like with my side project that I got going on.
Oh yeah, you guys do that. We'll talk about that as well when I get to that, because I mean that's a great collaboration, by the way. So, but okay, so you're similar to Doug, Jason. You kind of like the Rocky mythos, the Rocky character, the Rocky story.
Yeah, and it pretty much runs the same way. Like I got into Rocky 4 first because that was when I was a kid, and it kind of just all the flashing lights, all the kind of big 80s super bomb. And that, got me into it. And then as I got older, I went, back and had an appreciation for the ones prior to that. But it's, the original Rocky is the real story. That's the one, the underdog story, came from nothing, had nothing but, his heart and dreams and got an opportunity and made the most of it and became what it became. So that's the one. The Rocky one is the one, I could live or, give or take 2, 3, 5. I don't even acknowledge is.
I don't like 5.
I don't like 5. And so Rocky, so Rocky 1 is the movie. Rocky 4 I like because of the flashiness. Rocky 2 I actually, always liked. When we did Rocky Minute and we went Rocky 2 minute by minute, I actually don't like it anymore.
Was it because of color theory?
I really, what?
Color theory?
Was it because of color theory?
Was it because of the book?
It was just
the novelization did it, right?
it was just when you looked at it like piece by piece like that, there was so much inconsistency in the characters and the stories and just it. I don't know. It just seemed like in the end when I look back on it, like it was just sloppily put together.
Mm-hmm. The big question throughout Rocky II was what was his motivations for taking that second fight? Was it love for the sport or was it the financial straits that they were in?
What did you guys decide after the end of season 2? Because I know we
don't know.
Season 2.
We don't know.
Did you come to a decision?
I don't think we did.
No,
I say yes. I say it's both.
It bounced back and forth so much between those two. Wait, I didn't hear that. Walt, come again?
No,
Walt?
I just said it was both. I think that he loved to fight, but it was also the best way for him to make a living.
But it can't be both, man. Like one of them has to be. It can't.
Guys, go back and listen to season 2, Rocky. Rocky Minute. No, I see. Here's the thing. I agree with Walt, but then when you start breaking it down, and you start looking at it almost too closely, and then it starts to ruin it sometimes.
And that did the movie a disservice.
It did,
because I hear a lot of people say Rocky II is their favorite Rocky movie, and I'm like, listen to our season 2.
I think if you just sit, I mean, Rocky 1 is my favorite, and it's always going to be my favorite. Mm-hmm. I saw it in the theater when I was a kid, in 1977 or whatever. That's always going to be my favorite Rocky. But Rocky II, if you just sit down and watch it, it's a good movie. But if you think about it, you start, well, wait a minute, and you start realizing that there are big pieces missing out of it, stuff they didn't explain, stuff that even the novelization couldn't touch. So
it was almost like they couldn't, you couldn't decide if you wanted to make it Rocky fighting because he's a fighter and that's what he has to do, or Rocky fighting because he's broken and needs money. And you couldn't decide which way to go. So you kind of straddled the fence on both, and you kind of dipped your toe a little bit here, a little bit there. And to me, like, who wants to watch that? Like, and for Walt, what you sit here and say, oh, it's both. But like, okay, so then he thought it out logically. He said, well, I'm a fighter. This is what I want to do. It's a good way to make money. Then it becomes just like a normal person, like a logical, like I stay at my job because it has a pension and I make good money, like a good health benefits. Do you want to watch a movie about that, Walt? Or do you want to watch a movie about the guy who, wants to do something for the honor, for the glory, because this is who I am. I bleed blue and I want to be a cop because I want to be a cop. No, I'm there for the medical benefits. Like, so
they blew the ability to do that because they had him fighting the same person he fought in 1. So you knew that he was going to win. Mm-hmm. So they had to have some other tension somewhere because you knew that he was going to beat him. You
didn't have to have that. All you had to have was the fact that this guy, he won the fight, he got the money, he got all drawn into that lifestyle, right? And then he married Adrian. Well, Adrian and him, so they're married, and they're living a comfortable, good life, right? Where they have money, they have what they need, they have a good 401k, stock options, right? They have everything they need. But this motherfucker is like, no, I got to fight because this is who I am. And Adrian looks at him and is like, you don't need to fight. You could throw this all away. You get hurt. Something happens to you. We lose everything. Like, you don't need to do this. And he's like, yes, I do need this despite the money. We don't need the money. We have money. I need to fight because this is who I am. There's enough tension in that story alone where Adrian's like, you don't have to fight. And he's like, yes, I do. There's enough tension there. You don't need you don't need bills that aren't paid.
Right. But then, yes, I agree. But also, like, through the whole movie, you knew that he was going to fight and you knew that he was going to win. So there had to be that tension somewhere else. But the crazy thing is, that's almost the exact same thing they did in Rocky III. With Clubber Lang, that Clubber then comes in and emasculates him and baits him into fighting again. So,
well, Rocky III does what Rocky 1 and 2 needed to do back to back. He beats him. Clubber Lang beats him the first time, but then Rocky gets to come back at the end of the movie and beat him back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was two movies like really tightly packed into one.
Rocky 2 could have been about Rocky saying, I thought I should have won that fight. I had a chance. I was right there, and I just missed it, and it hurt my pride, and I'm a fighter, and I'm a warrior, and I'm going back there, and I'm going to beat the motherfucker. And that's it. And I don't care what and then Adrian's like, no, don't fight. You don't need to fight. We have everything. This isn't everything. You think this is everything? Which he says in another movie that he says later on, we're going to get there. But that's the conversation that they have in Rocky 3, which we haven't gotten to yet. But the conversation they have there on the beach with him and Adrian, that's the story, dude, where that's the, you think this is everything? Like, that's the whole thing where it's between pride and, a warrior needs to fight and a warrior has pride. It's between that and having everything. So Rocky 2 didn't need the money story, man. It was and not only did it not need it, but they did it like half-assed. Like they didn't go all the way with it. So you didn't commit to either story. You did it. You did a half-assed job on both stories, and it came out, and the final product was a sloppy mess of that's it, garbage. Here's some garbage.
But it wasn't a sloppy mess. It wasn't a sloppy mess until you started breaking it down 1 minute of the movie at a time.
Yes, no,
I bet you liked it.
I did.
Yeah. See, there's the danger sometimes of digging too deep. For me though, I always liked it only because for me, it's Rocky 1 and Rocky 2 is for me one long movie that was broken in two. If you watch it as one big movie, it feels better than to say Rocky 1 is its own movie and Rocky 2 is its own movie. I like to kind of watch them as one long movie. I literally will watch them back to back. Yeah, you guys point out a lot of the flaws, and I'm not arguing the flaws. But when you watch them back to back in order and you just are watching it, it's great because the scene at the very beginning and in one of the most powerful moments to me is when Rocky rolls his wheelchair by Apollo's room and he says, "Did you give me all you got?"
Yep.
Because that's all he cared about at that moment in time. Did you give me all you got? I want to know that I went and I gave you all I had. Did you give me all you had? And that's the only like real moment between those two until later in the franchise. And
you made a great scene like that, and then 10 minutes later he's walking down. Hey, you want to watch? Let's get some watches. Let's get you want the jacket. Let's get the jacket. The jacket looks good on me, right? Like an idiot, dude, like a dummy, like walking down the thing. That hospital scene was real. That was like grit. Like that was what Rocky's all about. It wasn't about going to the jewelry store to buy the watches. Like, ugh.
See, I thought the whole movie really reached its peak when that kid came rolling up on the wheelchair with the skull cap on. Or the skull cast, if you will. Yeah,
that's funny. Those were some of our minutes.
Those were, I will be on my deathbed and I will remember that scene and laugh my butt off. Because
and that young actor is the guy that went on to play the doctor in ER who got his arm chopped off by the helicopter. He was the guy that got turned into a mutant goo in one of the RoboCop movies.
Yes, he did.
All right. Well, we've been diving into like we were doing the Rocky Minute instead of talking about your guys' love of Rocky.
That's a little taste of your show.
Just a little taste.
While we're kind of winding down the interview portion and we get to the next segment of our show here, you guys did do Rocky 1 and Rocky 2 as seasons 1 and 2. You got a lot of Rocky 3 in pre-production underway, and then obviously the pandemic hit. A lot of things start to go on. I mean, things happen in our lives. But are you guys still looking forward to, at some point when things kind of get back to normal, having Rocky 3 as season 3 come out?
Yeah, totally. We have like 35 minutes recorded, and so definitely looking forward to to finishing. At that point, 35 minutes, like it's a 95 or 96 minute movie, so we're like a third of the way through that. So looking forward to finishing up. Like this has been our Everest. This one.
Well, and that is one of the good things about the Rocky movies is they are not 3-hour epics. They're 90 minutes in and out. You get
the first one's longer.
Yeah, the first two were 2 hours apiece. But this we get in this. I think the third one is even like 89 minutes. That one's even shorter. So we'll be moving right along through these hopefully soon.
Before we get everybody, if we get you guys to tell us where they can listen and where they can follow you, you did mention earlier, and I said I wanted to circle back around to it, your love of not just Rocky, but kind of your, as a secondary appreciation of Sylvester Stallone, got you involved with a couple of other Sylvester Stallone and or Rocky podcasts, and it's kind of morphed into a separate side show that you guys do, or that you do.
Yeah, it's Jay hasn't been involved in it, but. It's I joined Ryan Rabalkin and Craig Cohen, who are Ryan does the Go in the Distance podcast, which they do like a deep dive into Rocky, but they do it in like chunks, and that not as deep as like the minute by minute format, but they certainly do a wonderful job, doing their own take on the Rocky series. And Craig does the Slycast, where they're just ripping through Stallone's career chronologically. Now we kind of just decided to, get together once a month ish to do just, you know, a Stallone movie that we were like actually left it up to the Twitter followers to choose. Like we would each pick a movie, send it out and have them vote, have the listeners vote, and we cover the movie that they pick. So it's not chronologically or anything. We're kind of just jumping all over the place, but it's been fun. It's been fun revisiting movies that I haven't seen in years, and even like a lot of Stallone movies that I've never seen before in my life to begin with. So I'm getting a good taste of it.
You know, one of the ones you guys did that was one of the ones that was voted on was Lockup, and I have not seen that movie. But when I listened to that podcast, listening to you guys talk about it, hearing the clips dropped in, the inserts, I mean, it's awesome. It almost feels like I've seen that movie, which is a testament to not only how much you guys love talking about the movie or talking about Stallone, but giving a sense of the feel of the story. And you do a very, very good job, the three of you, with those, and I love listening.
Appreciate it.
Well, and I've been fortunate enough to catch y'all live a couple times, and up, everybody's call in.
Yeah.
So I got everybody mad at me for not liking one of his movies. I don't remember which one.
No, you said Throw Mama, Stop Her, My Mama Will Shoot is not his worst movie. You said Cliffhanger is his worst movie.
Right. That's right. And I did. The whole internet blew up on me.
Yeah.
But I stand my ground.
It's funny when I'm like when I saw Lockup as a kid, for example. Like I had such a different take on it than when I saw it, you know, reviewing it for the podcast, because like I don't know why, but I thought it was just like like an action movie in a jail, but it was far from it. It was more of a, you know, like a drama piece, which like I really, really loved Lockup after I saw it for the podcast. It was really good.
Awesome. Well, folks, I think if you dismiss Sylvester Stallone, I think you're dismissing a really talented guy, a guy who's worked his butt off, a guy who really has carved out his niche in Hollywood. Whether you like his kind of movies or not, there is a lot of variety out there. Sure, some of them are the bubblegum sort of movies of the 80s, but there's a lot of really good content out there as well, and these guys do a great job covering it. Let's first tell everybody about the Rocky Minute. If people want to listen, they want to get caught up, they want to follow you on social media, how do they do it?
Yeah, we well, on all the social media, we're Rocky Minute. On Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Our listeners group is called Mighty Mix on Facebook, and we're moving. We left the Dueling Genre website. We're there for the time being. Me, Ryan, and Craig joined Ryan's feed on Going the Distance. So we rebranded, and it's called the Sylvester Stallone Fan Podcast Network. So if you search that, that'll lead you right to the website there. And what we're doing now is we're re-releasing seasons 1 and 2 on the new feed, so everybody can get caught up there if you haven't been. And then and then from season 3 on, just search for Rocky Minute, and you'll be led right to the Sylvester Stallone Fan Podcast Network.
We didn't even get into family and stuff, but I mean, you guys both have younger kids. Walt and I have older kids. We joke, folks, if you want to go back and hear these guys joining us on our season 2 during Blazing Saddles, there was a hysterical moment where we all came to realize that Walt and I are like the 10-year advanced versions of Doug and Jason. Like where we are now, they'll be 10 years from now. And I'm Doug and Walt is Jason. So,
and the funny thing is, Alan, you've got all the 60-minute with stuff, all the side projects you're working on. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, you ain't doing shit.
I don't even know. I don't know how. Like, have even just carve out time for this kind of shit. Like, I don't even know how. We're in a fucking pandemic. I've been locked in the house since March and still don't have time to do any of this shit.
That sounds like a YP, not an MP. So
we do go to work though. I've worked the whole thing. So, but I don't have time for that.
All right. Well, you guys, I think we talked about it ahead of time. We move into our next segment where Walt and I each pull out a couple of interesting news stories, and sometimes they're criminal related. So I think you guys might get a kick out of it. You guys want to hang out till the end of the show and comment on some of the stuff we're going to share with our listeners?
I don't have time for shit.
Well, you don't have to do anything. You just have to react, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, you have no heavy lifting here.
Yeah, no heavy lifting at all. You don't have to prep anything.
This is not a side project of any kind.
I don't prep anything for our own podcast show.
and you know what? And if you can choose to sit back, relax, listen, and say nothing for the next 20 minutes. That's fine, too. So
I do that.
Walt, I always go to you first to open us up. We always try to get a couple of news stories that we just look in the last 7 days since the last show and say, oh, wow, there's some really interesting people out there.
There are some interesting people, and then there are these people. And this comes to us from the fine folks at Fox 2 in Detroit. Ooh. Human skull found inside fire pit by new homeowners in Trenton.
From Trenton, Michigan. That's New Jersey.
Well, this Trenton is Trenton, Michigan. I'm sure they're both.
Oh, see, I thought you pulled a Jersey story for our guys.
Did I? No, I didn't get one on either one of these. So, no, nothing going on in New Jersey. So, just Trenton, Michigan. Fox 2 tells us that a human skull was found in a fire pit in a Trenton yard Monday night by the new homeowner. The home had been owned by the late Mark Eberly, who was recently killed in a shootout with police in Cumberland, Tennessee. Way to go, Cumberland, Tennessee PD. The new property owners were working with investigators, according to Trenton police. Police say Eberly, 57, moved from the residence on Wilson Street sometime during the COVID-19 pandemic, possibly in the last few months. Neighbors say Eberly had nightly fires in the fire pit before he moved away. Investigators are working to make contact with a possible girlfriend of Eberly's who may have been living there at the time but has not been seen since. Currently, it is not known if she is missing or worse. Welcome to the neighborhood. Yeah.
I don't think there's any question about where she is anymore. I don't think you're going to get much word from her.
Well, and you'll be happy to know that Trenton detectives and Michigan State Police are combing the scene. Stay tuned with Fox 2 for more information as it becomes available. So,
we ain't found shit.
Yeah. Well, how would you like that? You know, you move into the new house and you start a fire in the fire pit and realize that the guy who melts from Indiana Jones is in your backyard.
I can't even imagine that. You know, we actually had a news story here in our own community where these kids were outside playing around. I don't know if a dog found it, but they were just playing around with what looked like a kind of a weird white stick. And then the mom was like, what are you guys playing with? And turned out it was like a thigh bone of a human, and that they were playing with the remains of a skeleton. They didn't know what it was.
Kids, quit playing with a neighbor.
So then it ended up being a body that had been missing for a long time, and all that was left was its skeletal remains that they were deciding they just came across it and started playing with it in the woods.
Well, with this story, Fox 2 really does us a disservice because this guy got killed by the police in Tennessee. They don't go into any of that. You know, like what he was doing, why he got killed. Did he have another body in the trunk? You know, this guy sounds like he's quite interesting.
I'm sure. Well, you know,
or was.
Yeah, be careful if you get invited to his next fire pit. Of course, he's not around anymore. Well, I've got the next story, and this one just, I thought it was funny just reading the headline. Driver fights off snake with just a knife and a seatbelt while speeding at 76 miles per hour.
Nice.
We got to go all the way to Australia for this one.
Oh,
driver
man.
Pulled over by police for speeding, was let off, thankfully. When it emerged, he was actually trying to fight off a live snake while going down the road. Australian Jimmy, as they just call him Jimmy, was fighting off the reptile with a knife and a seatbelt when officers flagged him down. Stunned officers said that they stopped the vehicle on the roadside when he reached out, knife in hand. By the way, that's not always the good thing to do when the police are pulling you over, screaming that he was dealing with a snake.
Dealing with a snake.
He told officers he was really worried that he may have been bitten by the venomous snake lurking in his ute, as they call it, which is his utility vehicle. He says that Jimmy fought off the reptile with the knife and the seatbelt while he was driving, but was not able to slow down and was clocked at doing 123 kilometers an hour, which is about 76 miles an hour. He told the officers, I think it's a brown snake or a tiger snake that crawled into my car. It was in there when I think it bit me. Now, I don't know how he didn't know whether it had or not, but he just freaked out. He added, you can feel my heart, mate. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. There's a snake in the car. Well, when he moved out of the vehicle, they did, in fact, find a bleeding brown-colored snake lying across the top of some sacks in the back of the truck where it tried to crawl away. The officers, after looking at the snake, realized the guy wasn't pulling their leg, even though the snake had crawled up the victim's leg, and decided to let him off with a warning. He said at the end of the story, I have never been so happy to see red and blue lights pulling me over in my life.
Was the warning, don't let any more snakes in your car?
See, no. Australia is the place where the creatures rule. So that guy was in the snake's world.
Yeah, everything in Australia wants to kill you.
Everything's poisonous or venomous in Australia. It's like
We're
everything's going to
huge.
kill you.
Friggin' spiders the size of your hand. Like, no.
I can actually relate to Australian Jimmy because one time, me and my wife, we were at my mother's house and we were leaving. And when I go to get in my car, there was a little frog about this big, like a baby frog. Tadpole? Is that a baby frog? What the fuck? Is that a turtle? What is
That's
that?
a pre-frog.
What is a tadpole?
Tadpole's before it's a frog.
Right, so this was after tadpole, but he wasn't quite a frog yet. So he was about this big, if you could see this, guys. He was a very small frog, but he was on.
That's it. He was still a frog. He was just small.
But he was on the outside of my window, of my car window. So I flicked him off, and I got into the car, and me and my wife drove or whatever, and we're driving down the street. And we get maybe about a mile and a half from my mother's house, and I'm just cruising down the road. I look down, and the frog is on my radio of the car, like just sitting there, like this little frog. So I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how do you get back in the car? Like, he was never in the car. He was on the outside. I flicked him off. Somehow he got in the car now. So the frog is on the radio. My wife's freaking out because there's a frog in the car. So she's like, oh my God, get the frog out. So I flick him again. And now we don't know where he is. And now he was just in the car. And I pull the car over. And we had to get out and like, you do that quick pat yourself down where you're like looking for the frog. And we found the frog and got him out of the car. So I can understand what Australian Jimmy was about.
You kidnapped the frog and drove him miles away from his home.
And now he's like in the woods, like, where the fuck am I? How do I get home?
So Jason's new side project is the Frogcast. He'll be telling frog stories from now on.
Yeah.
And just the other day, there was a praying mantis on my car. And I got in the car and I just drove. I was going to the beach to go for a jog. It's about a 3-mile drive, and I got in my car and I drove to the beach. I got out. There's a praying mantis. I get back in my car, I drive back home. There's a praying mantis. I get in the car, drive to work. There's the praying mantis. And what you just brought up, Doug, I thought about that then. I was like, this praying mantis got in my car in Neptune, and all of a sudden now he's in Carteret, and now I flick him off the car. He's so far from his house now. He's like, what just happened?
And he's a foreign species. He's gonna mutate and
He's got to build a new life, though, like a whole new life from scratch in a new town.
Yeah, you did him a favor. He may not have been very happy, and
Maybe
this is his chance to start over.
That's
he
why
calls his wife.
with.
He's like, "Honey, you're not going to believe this."
So I know a little bit about being attacked by animals when driving. So.
Well, attacked.
Frog sitting on the damn display of the radio, just sitting there going.
And there's no way that's a different frog. Have y'all been in that car since? You may have a frog habitat going. I mean, there's no way that's the same frog.
You could have had more than one frog in your car.
Yeah,
that's what I was starting to think. The car's gone. I don't have that car anymore.
It's gone. We got rid of it.
We're not going to solve the mystery of the frog car tonight. So we're going to make a quick run over to Newberg, Oregon, where KPTV Fox 12 in Oregon. Thank you, Fox, for all your great stories tonight. Police say that a man in a stolen vehicle flees officers, crashes into a woman in a separate stolen vehicle in Newberg, both arrested. So if you haven't seen this story, you definitely need to go look at the mugshots because they're classics. But 2 drivers in separate stolen vehicles were arrested following a crash in Newberg over the weekend. On Sunday morning, officers responded to a report of a suspect that had just stolen a person's Toyota Land Cruiser. The stolen vehicle was located minutes later as it went through town, according to the police. The subject attempted to elude police through downtown Newberg, then crashed into an occupied Buick Regal near East Franklin and College Street. The driver in the Toyota, identified as Randy Lee Cooper, 27, moron of Portland, was arrested for unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, attempting to elude police, third-degree assault, reckless driving, and other crimes. Here's where it gets fun. According to the police, the officers learned the Buick was also reported stolen 3 weeks ago. The driver of the stolen...
Wait, the Buick he hit?
Yes, the car he ran into was also stolen.
Oh, wow, that's bad luck.
Yeah. Well, and here's the shocking part. The driver of the stolen Buick, identified as Kristen Nicole Buig of Newberg, was found to be under the influence and was arrested. Bug was facing charges of driving under the influence of intoxicants and unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. So congratulations to those two fine, upstanding citizens for that bit.
Hey, Walt, you know what I thought about when you were telling that story?
What's that?
I thought that cop has recovered more stolen vehicles in 1 minute than I have in my entire 15 years. Like if I was that guy and I pulled up on that, like I'm done for the rest of my career. Like I'm like, oh, I'm finished. I got 2 stolen vehicles at once.
One day I called Doug. I thought I had a stolen vehicle that I was going to recover from like 1978. And I called and I was trying to get permission to run the VIN number. And they were like, no, we're not running the VIN number. But I was pretty sure Doug was going to be able to recover from New Jersey a stolen vehicle in Georgia.
That would have been some collaboration, wouldn't it, though?
That'd have been awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to move away from law enforcement issues, and I'm going to deal with the dating scene and what happens when you decide to randomly hook up for the night, and it leads to maybe a night of embarrassment if you're not paying attention to your bodily functions. This story from the Daily Mirror in the UK. Headline, mortified man leaves unfortunate stains at date's flat and sends hilarious plea for help. I think we'll all enjoy this story. A man who woke up discovered that he had left some embarrassing marks on his date's bed sheets when sent a desperate text that has now since gone viral thanks to a friend sharing it on Twitter. The man, known only as Kevin, had stayed overnight at a woman's house and woke up the next morning to discover he had left a noticeable poo stain on her white sheet.
God.
The 26-year-old knew he needed to find a solution fast, so he messaged a friend and said, I need some help. Here's what he tweeted. I had a dirty whiskey. Well, I can say it, I'll just bleep it. I had a dirty whiskey come back, and I must not have wiped myself properly. There's fucking stains on her bed, man. What do I do? Levi advised him,
oh my gosh.
Delete her from all of your messages and just leave. Kevin goes, I can't. She's sitting right here, and my leg is covering the stain.
Oh, my God.
Then all of a sudden, a few minutes later, another text. Dude, this is getting bad. I think I'm starting to smell the sheets. I can't make an escape. She's right here, but I can smell what's happening. The woman, thankfully to him, left the room for a moment, so he seized the opportunity and he flipped the bed sheet so the mark was now on the opposite side, as well as spilling some beer on the area for some good measure. He then made his getaway before she could notice, and maybe somewhat unsurprisingly, the pair haven't spoken since. Kevin said, quote, I ate a burger and chips from Burger King, and I drank a liter of Hennessy the night before. We went back to bed for a bit of TV watching, and then I realized something was off. I swapped the sheets around to her side of the bed and spilt the beer on the stains just to make sure I could cover my tracks. It's not looking good for this relationship, he later said.
That's diabolical.
Yeah, you think?
Now, he may have felt confident in getting away with it until the exchange did, in fact, go viral. As his friend wrote, mate, this is too good not to share. I'll take your name off, but I'm posting it on Twitter right now. It's had more than 25,000 likes and has been passed on. Other folks have weighed in now saying things like, why don't you just ask for a strong cup of coffee and then spill that on the covers? A second person wrote, he needs to accidentally spill a drink and then take the sheets off, saying, hey, let me go and throw this in the laundry for you. Another one said, oh, dear Lord, I'd die. Anyway, but the whole story is a man who found out apparently he had a little bit of incontinence in the night, didn't wipe properly, and smeared the sheets of some woman that he shagged the night before.
I think at that point you start a small fire and just hope for the best.
I actually have some experience with this. When I was in college, I just started dating a girl, and I was over her house laying in bed, and I pissed in the bed while we were sleeping, and I woke up. But I woke her up. I like nudged her, like, wake up. She's like, what? And I was like, I pissed in your bed. And we actually went on to date for a couple more months after that. So, sometimes maybe honesty is just the best policy.
maybe you should try that.
Lesson learned.
The way the article was written is they had actual screen grabs of the text, and it was just so funny. It was like the dude's like, "Hey, just get out of there quick before she sees." And he's like, "I can't." She's sitting like he's texting this. She's sitting right here. My leg is sitting on top of the stain. I think I'm starting to smell it. I mean, I was dying when I was reading it.
That is
who cares?
horrifying.
I can honestly say I have no story like this that I can relay.
No, not a story. I had a one night stand type of thing with a girl long time ago, and
glad you clarified with a girl. That's good.
You never know. We were back at her parents' house, and I woke up in the middle of the night. This was after a night of drinking. I had to piss so bad, but she's like, "You can't go out there. My parents' bedroom's right there." And I was like, I really have to go bad. She gives me a flower vase, and she's like, "Here, piss in this." So I did.
I'll empty it in the morning.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a makeshift bedpan. Make do. That's
oh
awesome.
My Lord.
Oh, goodness. Well, anyway, that's our news story segment. We always enjoy pulling some interesting news stories from the world of news, from sometimes from our own backyard, sometimes from around the world. But now it's time for us to get to our final segment where we kind of look at some of the entertainment options we've been looking at. And Walt, I always like to open with you, and then we go around to all of our guests and circle around to movies or TV shows. What are you streaming? What are you watching? What do you recommend?
I'm only going to talk about one this week, and that is I started watching Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix.
Oh, the reboot?
Yes, and it's actually pretty good. I'm 2 episodes.
I remembered that show on NBC. That was awesome. That was Robert Stack. It was great.
Yeah, great old show. And I didn't know if they were like redoing some of those old ones or moving on to new ones. They've moved on to
solved
new
half of those. So
yeah, that's true. And they found out half of them were just BS anyway. But it's really interesting, and they've done a great job with it. It's a real good true crime, And one of the mysteries that they're working on, I'm like, yeah, I've got no idea on this one. And so it's really good. Again, it's on Netflix. I think it's a 6-episode or 10-episode. I'm not sure which.
Do they use the same theme, or is it like an updated theme?
No, it's the same thing.
That's
same
awesome.
theme. So as soon as it comes on, you know what you're watching.
I was addicted to the original
Stack,
Unsolved Mysteries. It was so good.
Oh, I was too. And I haven't quite gotten to the one that's like the UFO story or, any of that stuff. But I've had 2 good true crime ones so far. Great show. Definitely worth watching.
Well done.
Also, really, really well done. So catch that. The other one is just a real quick piece of news. If for our listeners who go to some of the conventions and stuff, Dragon Con in Atlanta has been canceled this year, and I know it's a huge. I've never been, but I've heard it's awesome. But it's going to be virtual only. So if you're a Dragon Con connoisseur or whatever, go to dragoncon.org and take a look at that, and you can get your money back or whatever you need to do.
All right, Doug, I know we've been in this pandemic, but you're an essential employee. You've been working this whole time. We all have, basically. But what have you been doing or what have you been watching, streaming? What's been taking up your free time?
This goes back to what you were saying before about the glorification of police in TV shows and movies and stuff. I'm watching for the second time through The Wire.
Oh,
it's an old show from the early 2000s.
Great show.
But I think it's the most real police show out there. And it's not because it shows gritty, on the street stuff. I mean, it does. But like the bureaucratic interference, like everything from the politicians right down to the low level street guys, like it's a real, it was made by a real Baltimore police officer, and he's actually one of the characters in the later seasons. But it's such a real look at police work and like I said, the bureaucracy that surrounds it and everything. And it's one of the greatest shows I've ever seen.
I never saw that when it came out, but it's worth checking out now.
Oh yeah, it totally
I'm just
is.
about to the
100%.
end of season 1 on it. I've been watching that little by little as well, and it's a great show. And I just thought it was hilarious to start with. They threw the squad in the basement. They hardly gave them any equipment or anything.
Right.
And they've got two old guys who are about to retire and aren't doing any work, and they expect them to go out and solve all the drug problems in Baltimore.
Yeah, and it's real. Like I mean, this is a big case that the officers are working on. But as far as like the brass thinks, they're just like throwing them in the corner somewhere, giving them some busy work, not giving them any equipment, and like, all right, let's wrap this up in 2 weeks.
Right.
like an in-depth investigation. It's insane.
Sounds good. Now, who's like the main star in that one? Because I've heard of the show, but I just don't remember who's in it.
Oh man, there's no named people. Idris Elba.
Yes, I was going to say there.
Okay, so that's where he kind of got his name recognition, his branding, kind of in that one.
I guess
like Elba's done a lot. He's awesome.
He has, but he wasn't his like posh, proper English self. He was a ghetto Baltimore street thug.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and like when I found out that he was a British guy, I was like, holy! Like I couldn't believe it because he was so convincing, with an American accent. It was, that was he was. There were no big names back then.
Probably the guy that I recognize the most is Lance Reddick, who played the lieutenant.
Yeah.
He was in John Wick, White House Down. He was in Bosch. He plays the.
That's another series I'm told I need to watch.
Oh, fantastic series! Yeah, you definitely need to watch that too. And there was something else he was in. He was on Lost, and so he's just been in a ton of stuff. And as soon as you see him, you'll go, "Oh, I remember him from 14 other things."
Solid working actor. Gotcha. Absolutely. All right, cool. So The Wire. Anything else, Doug?
No.
Okay.
I don't watch TV all that much.
What about you? What have you been binging instead of podcasting?
I don't watch TV. Really, I don't watch binge movies. I can't get into anything. Like people give me recommendations. Like the only things I ever watched were Homeland and Breaking Bad, and people give me shit. I tried to watch the Ozarks. That sucked.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah, no, it sucked. Well, maybe I haven't. People keep telling me I got to watch a little longer, but what I've watched so far sucked. I really don't watch a lot of TV. I have a baby at home, so we watch a lot of Disney. But if you want to talk about the old Mickey Mouse cartoons, we watch them all the time.
Well, if that's what you're watching.
But I'm not really watching anything. But I have over the past year, 2 years, I've gotten into audiobooks. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, like when I'm driving to and from work and when I'm at work. And I always try to listen to books or read books about people that have done like led extraordinary lives or did I'm really I read a lot of like old Navy SEALs, like books, do the right books that were used to be Navy SEALs. I just like to tap into I know there's a special kind of person out there that is not me, not close to me. So I'm trying to tap into that. I've been doing it for 2 years now. I haven't accomplished anything, so it's not working. But I got into one of these days
to tamp yourself down. Man, I can't even. This guy's awesome.
I can't even call ADT to fix my motherfucking alarm for the last 5 minutes. So, but I will say I'm listening to this book right now that is really awesome. It's very long, so it's kind of tough, but it's by a guy named Colin O'Brady, who was the first person to unassisted crossing of Antarctica from end to end.
Yes.
Amazing, dude. What this guy did, is absolutely incredible. It's an unassisted crossing, so he can't get help from anyone. And the only thing he has is he has a sleigh. You have to pull a sleigh with you, but you got to walk with it. You got to strap it onto your a harness on your body, and you got to walk from one end of Antarctica to the other end of Antarctica. And he was the first person to do it unassisted. He did it in 60-something days.
That's incredible.
It is to listen to his daily, what he went through and what he did. He's in Antarctica by himself, and basically, when you do this, there's no chance of getting rescued if something goes wrong. He had to calculate exactly how much food to bring. And early on, he made decisions about, his sled was a little too heavy. So, very early on, he made decisions about, letting stuff go. And he let, food go. And he, really pushes the limit with food. And it's a pretty amazing story. But it's not – I don't think I could sit and read it because it's very long. But it's unfathomable what this guy's got.
What's the name of that book called? It's
called The Impossible First, because crossing Antarctica unassisted was considered impossible. That couldn't be done. I mean, I'm explaining what impossible means to you guys. It's impossible. Couldn't be done by anybody. It's impossible.
Now wait, what is this word again?
But it was considered to be impossible, and he was the first person to do it. And I don't even have in my in a fiber of what this guy has. We're not even the same species. He's me and him. We're not. and I'm going to throw like I would probably say 99% of people do not even have a fraction of what this guy's made up of to do what he did and go through what he went through. His name's Colin O'Brady. It's unbelievable.
Wow, awesome. Well, so and books are part of this. It's all about what are we listening to? What are our distractions right now? For me, I have finally gotten back into binging 2 shows that I had mentioned way early in the season. I think it was even some of our bonus episodes, Walt. I've gone back to start finishing up season 3 of The Next Generation on Netflix. I hadn't seen all of them when it came out the first time. I'm finally going back. And I had this one episode. It was called Yesterday Enterprise. And it was about a shift in the timeline, but they didn't realize there was a shift. But Guinan felt something was wrong. One of the best freaking episodes. I had never seen it. It was the first time I'd ever seen that episode because I somehow missed it every time it aired in replays. And it was awesome. And going back and picking up because I want to finish Justified. That is just such a freaking good show. Walt, I can't believe of all the cop shows and all the things that you like that you have yet to watch Justified. So I'm going to say again, watch Justified. It is so good.
Yeah, I need to make that next on my list. So
podcasts. We always wrap with podcast recommendations and or shout outs. Walt, anybody you want to shout out to this week?
Okay, so you got to be a pretty hardcore nerd to like this one. There's a podcast that I've stumbled across called Away with Words. Somebody else may have recommended that on here, and I may have picked it up from them. But basically, they take words and phrases that we use in common language and break down where it came from.
Oh, the etymology. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. They're about 45 minutes to an hour each. And I was just scrolling through the list and kind of randomly listening, and I'm like, I know I know what that means, but I never thought about where it came from. So very, very interesting, hardcore nerd kind of show. But the 2 hosts are really good. They do a good job of bringing a lot of humor to it. And so that's really good. And then I just started a new one today, actually called Culpable. The folks over at Tenderfoot TV do some of these true crime podcasts. They did Up and Vanished and To Live and Die in L.A. And this one, Culpable, I just finished the first episode and a half, I guess, and it's really good. Again, this one goes into a person who they believe committed suicide. It was ruled a suicide after like a 45-minute police investigation into this guy's death, and it's like, that's probably not quite enough to determine suicide. So anyway, check out Culpable, and really Tenderfoot TV does a really good job with their true crime stuff. They aren't out there trying to solve mysteries necessarily. They're just doing a good job of laying it out, bringing in people to interview and stuff like that. And then also, I started a book this week that I wanted to recommend. Our friend Tom Taylor, who's a member of one, of the Movie by Minute community, wrote a book called In Memory of Todd Wood.
Oh, it's really good.
It is great. I'm about a third of the way through. I hope to finish it tonight or tomorrow. Check it out. It's on Amazon. I ended up getting a hard copy just to have on my shelf, and then I'm reading it on Kindle. But Tom really is such a talented guy anyway. If you listen to any of his podcasts, he's a pleasure to have as a guest. He's just a really fantastic guy. But the book is really good. It's easy to read, probably take a couple hours to read through it. And there's a lot in it. He goes into, going to arcades when we were kids and stuff. So it's definitely worth reading. And again, like I said, short book. I don't know if he's got an audio book yet, but definitely worth checking out.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a really good book. I actually had Tom Taylor send individually autographs signed with messages of that book to each of my kids for Christmas a couple of years ago. And they all enjoyed it because they were right at the right age. They were sort of in that mid to late teens, depending on their age. So the older kids remembered kind of like what it was like to be kind of in that middle school awkward year. And my younger ones were like, well, we're just finishing up or just finished middle school. And so they could remember what it was like. They couldn't recognize as much of the 80s references, but they understood the relationships and the awkwardness and the things you're dealing with. So that was really, really good.
Absolutely. It's great.
All right, Doug, what about you? Podcasts. Obviously, you've done shout-outs to the Rocky Minute and the Slycast and some other things, but what else you got out there?
I've been really getting into 2 other ones lately. The first one is called Team Never Quit. Jay, I've been meaning to talk to you about this too, because I don't know if you ever heard of it, but you would love it. It's Navy SEALs, former Navy SEALs, Marcus Luttrell, the lone survivor himself, and his buddy, let me see, David Rutherford. They're both Navy SEALs, and they have like other, SEALs that come on as guests, like Marcus's brother, Morgan Luttrell. And they interview people that have these amazing never quit stories, whether it's, somebody who, got all their limbs blown off and they still managed to survive, or one of their interviews was a girl who was paralyzed and came back to relive her love of horse riding. You know what I mean? It's all these never quit stories, and it's great. Jay was talking about motivation and how he has none. Well, some of these stories, like, they give you that. They interviewed David Goggins, Jay, like 4 times. He's David Goggins he's widely known as like the toughest man alive for the stuff that he's done just through his sheer mental will.
Not so fast, Douglas. Not so fast.
Are you going to tell me about the Antarctica guy again?
No. Well, the Antarctica guy's another fucking level. But I'll get to mine when I get to me.
All right. And the second one I've been listening to is called Big Screen Sports. It's a guy who he has guests on, and they're trying to do every sports movie that's ever been made, but they go through the sports movies and they talk about like things like sports wise that they got right and that they got wrong and how it could have been improved. Like you take the one that they destroy is called Trouble with the Curve, that Clint Eastwood story, and just how awful and off the mark they miss with the whole sports aspect of the story. So that's
and what's the name of that one?
That one is Big Screen Sports.
Okay, that sounds cool.
In that movie, they also missed the mark of trying to be entertaining.
Hey, Clint just turned 92.
I know. I love Clint, but that was a tough one.
I haven't seen it, I'll be honest, but it's on my list of things because I do love Clint Eastwood. So, Jay, what about you? What are you listening to besides audiobooks on Navy SEALs and people crossing the Antarctic?
I don't listen to any, I don't have any podcasts I can sit here and be like, oh, I listen to this one religiously or that one religiously. But I can tell you, I always follow, if I hear stories about certain people, I'll seek out if they were on some show or whatever, and I'll listen to those episodes. And there was this guy that I'm very big into, I don't know if you guys, Atlanta, actually, it might be Jesse Itzler, one of the owners of the Atlanta Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm big into listening to his stuff because he's very motivational and very inspirational. But from listening to his shit, I got involved and I started listening about this guy who, Jesse Itzler does all these ultra marathons and last man standing runs, which are just these ridiculous, no human being should be able to do these things. But started hearing about this guy named Chad Wright, was a Navy SEAL. He's from Georgia, northern Georgia. He was a Navy SEAL, and he just does these, after he finished up, he does these just ridiculous races now. But so I seeked out a couple podcasts that he's been on. He was on Lewis Howes on HOWS Howes, Lewis Howes podcast. Rich Roll, he was on one called Electric People, where he was a guest on the show, and you can pick any one of them because they're all pretty much very similar. But if you just seek out, if you go Chad Wright, it's 2 D's on his name, Chad Wright, and just listen to any one of the ones he was on. Again, dude, just a guy who has had just his life has just been amazing, interesting. He went to become a Navy SEAL, and he was told he couldn't because he had a hole in his heart, a little tiny hole. And they told him you can't. They let him go through Navy boot camp, and when he was ready to go and be a SEAL, they said you can't do it because you have this hole in your heart. And they were concerned about when he went deep diving that if something would happen. No, I'm sorry, not a hole. I'm sorry, it was a little embolism, and they were concerned that when he went deep diving that it would burst and he would die. So they told him he couldn't do it. So he asked them if they would do surgery on it to remove it, and nobody would do surgery on it because there was no point in doing it because he could live with it. He could live a normal life. But so he couldn't get surgery done. He couldn't become a Navy SEAL. Well, he went out and searched, and he finally found a doctor that says yeah, I'll do it, whatever. And he went and had this life. They said the surgery itself was more dangerous than anything else. He went and had this just surgery that he didn't need to have, the dangerous surgery. It was 12 hours long, and he did it, and he had the surgery, and then he went back to the Navy SEALs and said, listen, I had the surgery. And the admiral who was in charge of the medical, he was the chief medical doctor for the Navy, who was the guy who told him at first, you can't be a Navy SEAL with this. Basically was if you like you went and went through all of this just so you can correct this so that you can come here. He's like, then I'm going to let you in. And he ended up having this great career as a Navy SEAL. And now what he does now is just this race is unbelievable. But it's just from another mindset of a place that normal people like us, we never go to. Like we don't have what these people have. I mean, I take that back. We do, but we just don't tap into it like they do. And I'm trying to gain some of that. But if you ever have nothing to do, go find any one of the podcasts. He was on. Chad Wright is his name. Doug claims that, and I always thought David Goggins was like the toughest man alive, but you gotta give Chad Wright a shot.
Yeah, if you have elective heart surgery so that you can get the job of your dreams, that's pretty hardcore.
But it was like there was like no option. Like there was like no this, like he had to do this. Like it was like, and they said to him, like, why didn't you just find another goal? Like every podcast asked him the same question, like, why didn't you just find another goal and like do something you could do? And he's like, no, he's like, this was the goal. Like, this is what I wanted to do. And he goes, I had to do what I had to do to get to that point because there was no other goal. That this was it.
That's great. I love stories like that.
Like 99.9% of people in the world, if you're told like, I'm sorry, Alan, you can't be a Navy SEAL because you have this heart condition, would be like, oh, well, and you would go and find something. And that's what they expected him to do when they told him was they're like, oh, we'll get you could still be in the Navy. You can go on a ship, you can go on a whatever. We'll still get you a job. But he was like, he actually, when they told him that, he got out of the Navy based on he was on a Navy SEAL contract. So he was able to get a lawyer and prove that by not letting him go, that it was a violation of his contract. So he was able to get out of the Navy. Then he went and had the heart surgery, and then he came back to them again. And it's just, like I said, most people would be like, all right, I can't do it. But he was like, no, that, trust me, I'll be back. I'm going to find a way to do it. And he did.
That's really cool. No, that's awesome. I love any kind of story like that about
people. He's a Georgia boy.
Overcoming either overcoming insurmountable odds or, defying what everybody says you can't do and they prove people wrong. I wish more people had that sort of tenacity to just say, well, you know what? I'm going to still try anyway. I
got to look on Team Never Quit. The Team Never Quit to see if they had a interview with him.
I'm sure they did. He's quite the but he's the guy I always give you. I always tell this to Doug. Like he came up with this mantra, like don't give your pain a voice. So like when people say to him, like he does these runs that are just ridiculous. Like 130-mile runs, and there's people always asking him, like, how do you get when you get to that point where you're like your body's breaking down and your mind is telling you can't go on anymore and you can't do this, and his whole thing is like, I don't give my voice a pain. I don't put a story behind it. I don't start once the voice that creeps into my head. I don't start thinking about it and talk about it. He's like, I go to somewhere other place. I bring my mind somewhere else where I'm not listening to the pain. And he's like, the pain's going to be there, and it's going to be there now, and it's going to be there an hour from now. It's going to be there 2 hours from now. But he's like, I go to another place where I don't even think about it.
That's incredible. That's a skill. I've got only 2 podcast shout outs. I'm going to give one first and foremost to the real Queens of Queens because they just had their 1-year anniversary. That's always a big milestone for any podcasters. Those ladies have been very, very funny, very fun. I like getting a female perspective of the world, especially with the two ladies who have kind of that raw attitude of being raised and living in Queens, New York. And Walt, they have invited us at some point. We're going to do sort of they're going to bring on some guest podcasts or guest podcasters, and they're going to bring us on, and we're going to have kind of a real Queens of Queens meets the Wilder ride one time. So we're going to get ready to do that here. And the other shout out, because they're going to do it the same thing. It's amazing how sometimes you run into the same circle of podcasters who all kind of like support and like and listen to each other. But the guys from the Bad Cop show, they're very, very funny, very irreverent. This most recent episode they just put out a couple of weeks ago was hysterical about an overwoke white woman who was mad about a black man who asked her to put her dog on a leash. It went viral on social media. These guys tore the woman apart in such a way that I was crying. I was laughing so hard at it. Very much Howard Stern in the style of delivery, very much irreverent. So if you're if you're one of those people who are looking for microaggressions and easily triggered, not the show for you, but everybody else, check out the Bad Cop show. They always look at what's going on current event-wise, but they have a very slanted, twisted way of trying to look at it, and I love it.
Well, I'm looking forward to both of those. I wasn't aware that we were going to get either of those opportunities, so I'm looking forward to both of those because those are fun shows.
All right. Before we wrap up on our end, guys, it has been so great to have you join us in our listeners' lounge. It's a little bit of a different format. We're not breaking down a movie a minute at a time. Instead, we're breaking down the guests' lives that we have run into and friends and folks that we just really admire and just respect. And we're looking at you guys throughout each episode, not quite a minute at a time, but we want to break it down and talk to you guys. Doug, thank you for joining us. Anything else you want to add? Anything you want to say? Something that we forgot to maybe ask you that you want folks to know about?
No, I mean, you guys are doing a good job with this. I mean, I wish me and Jay would, stay relevant on the airwaves, but we're kind of just floating through this pandemic, and we'll pick it back up sooner or later.
You know what? For folks, if they haven't gone back, and I know you're re-releasing them, the Rocky Minute is, I mean, every morning when there was a new episode, I was listening to it on my way to work and then on my way back home to work. And if it wasn't over, I was finishing it up at home. It made me laugh. It made me really want to go back and rewatch the movie. So it's a really, really good podcast. You guys did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I haven't listened to all of them, but I kind of tend to catch them here and there. I need to go back through season 1 systematically, but I always love your show, and it's a good dose of humor along with some insight into the movies. So I enjoy that.
We certainly appreciate it. Thanks for having us on too.
Jason, I'll give you the same chance to say anything that we may have forgot to bring up or ask you that you want to let the folks know about.
No, the other thing I want to mention is that earlier today I mentioned how I didn't have the motivation to call ADT to fix my alarm, but I want to let everyone know my alarm is working, so don't trip. You have larceny in your heart.
No, it just likes going off at hilarious times.
I didn't want to tell all your listeners that my alarm doesn't work and my house will get broken into tonight. So it is working. It is operational. So don't even try it.
Good deal. Because that's always good advice. If you're going to break into a house, look for a cop's house. That's always good.
Right. Smart move.
The outcome is probably going to be in your favor.
I just want to say thanks for inviting us on tonight. I
Absolutely. You know what? It's been way too long since we've all chatted. We need to do this again, even if it's just a Zoom call, just to stay in touch. Because I've been thinking a lot about you guys during the last few weeks, especially. And I'm glad Walt had reached out and scheduled you for yesterday that you didn't know anything about.
No. I went back and read the entire conversation. There's no date or time mentioned. The last thing it said is Walt's like, "Oh, I got to get you on the schedule," and then we never heard from you again.
I did get you on the schedule
yesterday. You're like, "Oh, you guys ready?"
Y'all were on the schedule. What's the problem?
That was the best. It was on the schedule. I was like, "Oh, it's cool. I'm going to send the invite," and then I get Doug going, the hell is this?
Yeah.
I was like, uh-oh.
And when Doug's doing that, you know there's a problem.
Yes, because had Jason come back, I'm like, okay, Jason didn't can read an email. That's fine.
No, of course.
But when Doug comes back and goes, what the hell are you talking about? Like, uh-oh. I said, Walt probably had a conversation with you, never locked anything down, but in his mind he did, and he put it on the schedule, and once it's on the schedule, it must have been scheduled.
I was going to say, it was, in my mind, it was rock solid. So
Thank you guys for being flexible and being able to shift a day out from our normal recording and being able to join us.
Doug is pretty good with schedules. Normally, like, he would have texted me a couple of days ago, like, "Oh, don't forget, we got that thing with Walt and Alan in a few days." But if he didn't remember it, then it wasn't happening.
Oh, I have no doubt that was on me. That was all on me.
You're not future Jason for nothing.
But then I started thinking about. I remember talking about it, so then I was like, "Oh my God, did we set a date that far in advance and completely forgot about it?" But no, I went back and read it.
Yes, no, that's
I save all my shit.
The internet deleted that part.
All right, Walt. We always throw it to you at the end. Remind all of our listeners, they may have just stumbled across this episode. These may be Rocky Minute listeners who decided to listen in because they hadn't heard from Doug and Jason in so long, so they don't know anything about season 3. How do people learn a little bit more about what we're doing here for the Listeners Lounge?
Well, you can learn everything you could possibly want to know about us at our website, thewilderride.com. From there, you can find us on all kinds of different podcatchers. You can find all our past episodes. You can find bios of our guests and of us. And then you can find the links over to where you can find us on Facebook, which is facebook.com/thewilderride. And you'll want to follow us there. Then hit the button to join our listeners group. And that's where all the fun stuff is. That's the discussions on movies and all kinds of trivia and all kinds of great stuff that comes up, some crazy memes, but it's all entertainment. No politics, no COVID, no nothing. Just what's going on with the show and what's going on in entertainment. And that's a lot of fun. Also, encourage you, if you like what you're hearing, to go to whichever podcatcher you are listening on and do two things for us. Number one, if you wouldn't mind rating and reviewing our show, that would be a huge help. It would help other people find us. And then also, if you like a particular episode or like all of them, forward them on to your friends through Facebook or Twitter or whatever. We're always happy to have more people come on board and give us a listen. But I also wanted to mention, last week we had a listener post a super nice review of our show and give us a 5-star rating. And I didn't realize it until after he had posted it, but it was an old friend of mine, Jim Wright, who I've known forever. And a couple of days after he posted that, he had been fighting cancer and took a bad turn, and then he passed away yesterday. So great guy, but he really had just recently started listening and had, like I said, just gave us a great review, which I was really moved by when I realized it was him, because he was not one to do something like that if he didn't really enjoy it. So anyway, not to bring everybody down, but Jim was a great guy. I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot about being human and treating people the right way from him. And I'm going to miss him a lot. And this has been a really crappy year. So looking
But you know what? This is just another example of what our podcast has done to get people through a lot going on in their lives. And that's the thing we have to always pull back and remember, no matter how bad you think something's going on in your own life, there's always somebody dealing with something worse. And if we can bring a little bit of smile and laughter, a distraction, you know what? To me, it's all worth it.
Well, and, for me, we lost Melissa right at the beginning of the year, who was also a listener of ours, going through all this stuff with my mom and losing her. Now with Jim, the show's been a great distraction for me.
I've decided we got to get rid of it. Walt is apparently a collector of things.
I am the Bermuda Triangle. Yeah, so
Doug, what you been doing lately?
Uh-oh.
Jason said he's looking for a side project.
No, Jason's not looking for a side project. All right. Well, we will end on that note. Folks, come on back next week. We've got yet another great guest lined up. Will be joining us here in the Listeners Lounge. It releases every Tuesday, 6 a.m. East Coast time. Subscribe at The Wilder Ride in your podcatcher of choice. Until then, join us back here right in the Listeners Lounge. Guys, that was awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having us, man. Yeah, it's always fun. Always a good time talking to you guys.
We talked about making a political podcast. We should do that. Get all of us fired.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Chad Wright was on Team Never Quit. I just sent you the link.
I was looking for it during
the whole time he's been searching for that since you mentioned it.
Well, at least he was listening. He was looking for something that was related to the show.
Hey, at least it was relevant to what we were talking about.
When you hit the dance floor, you gotta be jumping, Jack. Jump on in, jump, like a wild train, run right off your track.